Welcome back to the Postpartum Plan podcast. This podcast is designed to support and empower you through postpartum. Whether you're expecting, in the early postpartum days, or beyond, this space is for you. I'm your host, Madison Fugere, a dedicated postpartum doula and pediatric sleep consultant, striving to help parents feel confident and supported in their parenting journey. Each week, I'm sharing practical tips and expert advice to help you navigate all the postpartum things with confidence. Well, as much confidence as you can. Let's embark on this journey together, making your parenthood as serene and supportive as possible. Lisa is a certified pregnancy and women's empowerment coach and the proud owner of Empowered Birth Coaching. She's on a mission to help pregnant folks prepare for birth on all levels so they can reflect back on their experience and be reminded of their strength, resilience, and power. She is known for helping birthing people have natural, low-intervention hospital births that they desire. As a mom herself, she is very passionate about effective planning that prioritizes support and education over stuff. She recently completed the Be Her Village Gift Registry Expert Certification and is excited to launch her newest workshop, Registry Redo. Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am so excited to talk all things baby registry and products and all the things because I think it can be such an overwhelming time for new parents to try to find and put things on their baby registries. So what better than having a bit of an expert here to help us really hone in on what's important?
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. It's an honor.
So, we were just saying a second ago, you guys, how we really just kind of wing these episodes. So we're just going to go with it. We're going to see what comes up and we're going to share. And if anybody has other specific questions, head over to Instagram and ask one of the two of us and we'd be happy to help. But let's dive into it. Do you want to, before we kind of dive into the exact products and services and all that stuff, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about you and what you offer your community and maybe a bit about the amazing course that you're taking and took on all of this baby registry stuff?
Absolutely. So I am Lisa and I live in Western New York with my son and my partner. And I got into birth work after finding out that I was pregnant, dove in and researched a ton and decided I wanted to have a natural out of hospital birth and really had an incredible experience. And after that, in my postpartum days, I found myself really struggling. And out of that struggle birthed this business of mine that is called Empowered Birth Coaching. And it was my way to really feel fulfilled in my work and offer support to new parents. And it has evolved over time, and we'll get into that a little bit. But essentially at the core of what I do, I offer group and one-on-one virtual coaching for pregnant folks to help prepare for birth and postpartum. And through that journey, I have been partnered with Be Her Village, which is an online registry application available to new parents that is not like your typical registry. So I'll tell you a little bit about Be Her Village because it is a nice segue into our conversation today. But essentially, instead of building a traditional registry, which we're all very familiar with, Be Her Village offers a platform where you can register for more services and support and create funds for different things such as childcare, pelvic floor therapy, and we'll talk a lot more about all of that great stuff. But all of a sudden, I found myself really loving their mission and feeling like I could do a lot for my clients by opening that door. And from there, I've really dove headfirst into baby registries and how that affects pregnant people, how that affects postpartum. And, I can't wait to talk more about that today. But that's really what I have been focusing on over the last year.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I think that there really is kind of like a curve in change in not just baby registries, but registries as a whole. I mean, when you get invited to weddings nowadays, you're often getting pushed to someone's wedding website that is here, put money towards a fund for a honeymoon or toward the fund for, specific parts. I mean, people sometimes are less excited to just give people money, but when you're able to see where it's going to, I know a lot of people will say, like, here, pay for an excursion for us on our honeymoon or for a dinner. And like, you can feel like you're still gifting them something and you know what it's going towards, right? It also kind of takes me back to my younger days when, the holidays kind of started to change when you get a little older and your family members are getting you less things and getting you more like gift cards and stuff, right? I remember always spending gift cards and taking a picture or whatever I spent it on and sending it to the person, right? So they feel like they're really getting you something. They're not just handing you a check, right? And I think that now we're learning that there is so much more needed than just this stuff. And, being able to have services and opportunity for support, I think people are a lot more excited to gift to parents that are going through this.
I agree with that. You really spoke to my soul about the experiences aspect because as a first time mom and as a individual, I have always gravitated toward quality time. And there came a time around Christmas where I said to my family, everybody's super busy. Let's go do something fun as a group instead of swapping gift cards or instead of swapping gifts. And
Yeah.
so that has been a big part of my life for years, which is why I think I was so drawn to Be Her Village because postpartum, especially, it's about the experience. So I agree with you 100%.
I think it's also just social media has made everybody think that they need all this stuff. And we're here to truly myth bust that today, right? I mean, you don't need this super expensive stroller or this super expensive baby carrier or baby bouncer or bassinet, right? There are not many things that babies truly need. You need diapers, you need a safe place for them to sleep. You need, things that you can transfer them in and out of the car with, some type of car seat or stroller if that's what you want. And when it comes down to it, that's basically it. You need clothes and that's it, right? And I think that society and specifically social media has made it seem like you just need all these things. And it's created this like competition, which makes the mom guilt and the parenting guilt so much more present, I think. And so being able to kind of break it down and saying, like, what are these things that we really need? And what are the things that are worth splurging on, right? Because I think people are willing to splurge on things if they know that they're good and they're good products. And I think about what we've talked about, right? Some of these strollers specifically are wildly expensive, but people just see that that's what everyone's using. So they think, well, it must be worth it to splurge on that thing. And we're here to myth bust today and say, don't splurge on the stroller, right? um, so I'd love to kind
100%.
of, yeah, I'd love to dive into that. Like, tell me about what are these items that people are typically splurging on that they either don't need or that they have something that they could, have a dupe of, right? Like, what's something they could get that's cheaper than and still works as good, if not better?
Sure. So there are many, many things, but I will just talk about a few that I feel pretty passionate about. And I got to start with a stroller because I fell down this rabbit hole. So I am somebody prior to having a baby, I never really was into designer clothes or designer bags. And it is not to judge anyone who is. You do you. But again, I'm more of like, I'd like to spend my money on travel and things like that.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to what is that individual's goals. And so on the stroller front, I'm a controversial person, so we'll just get that out in the open. I fell down the rabbit hole of researching strollers because I'm a big power walker. So for me, it was important to have a good stroller that was functional and all the things.
Right.
I came across the Up Yours Baby, and I felt like this is the one I've got to have. This is the one that everybody is talking about. And the price tag must reflect the functionality and the
Right.
quality.
Right.
It's not to say that that stroller isn't made well and that it isn't made with great materials. But it makes me vomit to think about the money that I spent on that stroller in the realm of $1,500. And it did not meet my expectations. There were no places to put a water bottle,
Right.
no place to put your cell phone.
It's
All
all a
these
la
little,
carte, right? It's like you
all
get
a la carte.
this car, you get this stroller, but now, oh well, if you want the actual seat that goes along with it, let's buy, you have to get this. Or if you want the car seat that actually connects to this, you have to buy a different like package. Or if you want the parent console, like strollers always used to have these water bottle section. Why are we taking things away?
100%. And so I found myself traveling and splurged on a second stroller to have where we vacation often. For $220, I got an awesome stroller that had two cup holders, a place to put my phone, great storage underneath, and a better sun canopy for my son because it's in Florida. $220. Great heavy duty wheels. So that really opened my eyes that brand name is what you're paying for in a lot
Right.
of cases. And so you can really take that lesson across the board with most registry items. And I started asking myself, the savings there, upwards of $1,200 plus dollars, could have
Right.
been used toward all my chiropractic care, all my pelvic floor physical therapy, all my mental health therapy. I mean, there were other services and support that I was racking up postpartum
Yep.
that I could easily use those dollars. And again, if someone had asked me, what are your goals? We could have really mapped it out on paper strategically. And so I like using that example. And I understand that not everybody agrees with me. My very best friend loves her Up a Baby. I call it the Up Yours Baby. And again, it's not to judge anybody's preferences, but I felt personally it was a waste of money.
Right. And I think the thing that you started with talking about here is really where it is, right? Everybody's going to splurge on something. And if you're going to splurge on something, then figure out what it is that you want to splurge on, right? Some people, when clients come to me, a lot of my clients are telling me for postpartum, sleep is the thing that I want to splurge on. Sleep is the thing that I want, right? And so they'll end up either hiring a postpartum doula, getting a snoo, or doing both. And I can do a whole nother episode on the snoo because personally, I think it's absolute trash. And I think that it restricts a lot of movement. And I think there's a lot of downsides to it. And I would far rather people spend money on a sleep consultant or a postpartum doula overnight to help them help their child get the sleep they need in the manner that is going to help them down the road. However, some people that works for them and that's what they want to spend their money on. And there is no shame to you for doing what works for you, right? You know, some people, like you just said, are active walkers or runners, or people really want to splurge on a jogging stroller that works in the woods or something like that, or a stroller that has a good sunshade and wheels for the sand. Everybody has their thing. Some people really are big travelers, so they like to get that Duna stroller or something like that that pops up and has wheels attached to the car seat. But that doesn't mean that you need all of them. Nobody is doing all of these things, right? I'm just so it's so true. So, okay, when you're working with clients, I know every single client's going to be so different, right? But what are the main categories that we're talking about when we're talking about baby registries? And what are the main products that you suggest people need to actually register for and get? Because I find people are getting so many things. And a lot of the time they'll be like, I got 17 different types of bottles and I'm not going to open them because I'll probably return them, but I'm going to keep them, right? Well, if it's a baby registry, okay, you can still return them. But if you're going out and purchasing all these things by yourself and opening them and sanitizing them, then you can't return them.
Right.
So I'd love to know what items you think people need to have in their home prior to baby that they need, and then what they can find after they have baby and purchase then.
Sure. I love this question because my registry consultations follow a great framework. And I know we'll get to the course that I took, and I feel very strongly about that. But that's one of the great things about taking Be Her Village's gift registry expert course because it helps you build that framework. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
And so the top categories I would say are feeding, sleep, diapering, and travel. And you can throw a few other things in there, but often those are the top four categories that most of the products will fall into. And to answer your question, what do you really need? I'll be honest, it's quite minimal. And with the resources that we have, I don't want to, go down a rabbit hole, but Amazon's a great example. We can get most things shipped to our homes within 2 days.
Right.
So it's hard for me to believe when somebody says I need to have all the things ahead of time, because that's simply not true. And the way that I feel strongly is that our babies are individuals just like we are. And a lot of the products that I had on my registry really served the masses and didn't serve my baby.
Right.
So again, I wish I had waited on a lot of items because then I would have known what would have worked for us. Some things that I feel are unnecessary right out of the gate, and this again could cause controversy, but personally, I did not need a baby crib, and I'll explain why. First of all, those first few weeks, most people are either using a bassinet, they're co-sleeping, or they're bed sharing. And I don't have a lot of people in my circle that went right to the crib because many people don't have room in their bedrooms for a crib. So a lot of it is logistics.
Right.
And so with all of that said, I wish that I had spent less time and energy and money researching and finding and ordering in advance and worrying during COVID times that it wasn't going to get there in time. That was all a waste of energy because the truth
Right.
is I didn't need it on day one. And so that's an example of something that I think we worry about and we kind of spend a lot on, and chances are you're not going to need that immediately. So
Right.
that's one of those things. On the feeding front, I find there are a lot of products that companies have convinced us will help solve a problem. And in my opinion, they're made up problems. So let me give you an example. If you choose to formula feed, or if you choose to bottle feed with breast milk or with donor milk, you are going to need bottles. Okay, that's an easy one. But what you may not need is a bottle sterilizer. You may not need an infant dispenser, a formula dispenser.
Mm-hmm.
You may not need a bottle dryer or a 3-in-1 massive piece of equipment that takes up a ton of real estate on your countertop to do all three of those things. And
Right.
let me explain a few reasons why. And I bring this up because for me, this was not common knowledge until I took the course. So with sterilization, I think there's some misnomers out there. If you buy baby bottles and you take them out of the box, you would want to sterilize those because it's the first time you're using it. But I have read lots of research that says you actually don't need to sterilize the bottles every single time they're used. Hot water and free and clear soap is fine. Okay. If you let them air dry properly, you do not have to worry about bacteria growth. And companies have convinced us that sterilization after every single use is absolutely necessary, and it's not. I've talked to plenty of NICU families who said we stopped that after a few months. So sterilizers to me are a waste. Again, no judgment if that's something that you prefer to do, whatever makes you feel comfortable, but it's not necessary for all. Same with a bottle dryer. Leave them out to dry overnight. Problem solved. And as far as infant formula dispensers, in my personal opinion, again, I think they're unnecessary. I have an incredible DIY hack that I give to my clients called the jar method. And if that's something you're interested in learning about, I definitely encourage you to either register for the expert course or hit me up in my DMs to do a consult so I can explain how that works. But it's about a $12 hack, and it will do the exact same thing as an infant formula dispenser. And I don't love the dispensers because they are hard to clean. The instructions tell you to clean them after every 3 bottles made. Who the heck has time for that? And oftentimes they will actually leave clumps in the bottle, which could not only be a choking hazard, but it's not mixing the formula properly. So
Right.
your bottle could have less nutrition in it than you thought. And that's a problem.
Right.
So I hate when companies create solutions to problems that they've made up for marketing purposes.
Right.
So I
And
hope
people look
those are
at
a few
those. Yeah, and people look at those and they think, "Oh, that's something that makes my life easier, right? Like that's going to sterilize it so I don't have to. That's going to dry it so I don't have to. That's going to make my bottle easier in the middle of the night." But at the end of the day, like you can make that bottle faster. You can make that bottle far better. There has been so many things out there that show that those baby brezzas do not dispense the right amount of formula per ounce. And like you said, it creates clumps within the bottle, but it also ends up creating clumps within the machine, which causes the not correct amount of formula to be dispensed. And it's can be scary, especially if you are having a baby who's not gaining weight. That's very, very scary to be using a machine that's not giving your baby the correct nutrients per feed.
exactly.
And you said there's you have a hack when there's also so many different things out there you can do to make things so much easier. So definitely reach out to Lisa for that. Um, and I love that. The baby crib thing, I think that so many people just are wanting that perfect baby nursery setup. And I get it, right? Like the hormones, the nesting, you get there. You want things done. You want things pretty. You want to be able to show off your baby's nursery and take pictures for social media and feel prepared because that's the best you can do to feel prepared in that moment. But there are so many other things you can be doing, right? And you're thinking, oh, I'm just trying to set everything up now so that when I don't have energy later, I'll be okay. But odds are your baby's going to be in your room with you for at least 3 months. The CDC says that SIDS risk drops after 6 months. So you should be having your baby in your room with you for at least that, according to them. And some people have them in their room even longer. So as simple as not having a baby crib. And if you're wanting to feel prepared, have a pack and play. Those are one of my favorite things. They're so versatile. Um, and then you have something that you feel like you can put baby in if they start to outgrow that bassinet. But I love that. So let's talk about the must needs. When we're making that registry, we need XYZ, right? So we need some sort of diapering. Like you said, that was one of our categories, right? Whether you decide to get disposable diapers, reusable diapers, wipes, whatever that may be, a diaper paste, something as simple as that. Everybody keep your eyes peeled because there is a cloth diapering episode coming up in the next few weeks, which I'm
Nice.
really, really excited about.
And on that diapering category, a couple key things that I like to remind parents of is you don't have to choose one or the other. I did a combination of cloth and disposable because I love the idea of having cloth diapers. God forbid there was a shortage. I knew it was saving on waste. When I was home, just baby and I, especially when we were exclusively breastfeeding and we hadn't even introduced solids, there wasn't a whole lot of, mess. And it just really worked well for me. But when I was out and about, for me personally, it was easier to use disposables. If caretakers had baby at their homes, it was easier to send disposables. So you're never locked in to one or the other. And it's
Yeah,
okay to change course or mix it up.
right.
And another product that I love to complain about are changing tables. And again, that nursery setup, I get it. But again, the changing table is a place where you could potentially just not have one. I didn't. My baby would fling himself around all over the changing table. And after a few weeks, my anxiety was too high. And I said, this is a flight risk. It's a hazard. I'm done with it. And also, I was recovering from a 3.5 hour pushing phase. So walking to the nursery to change every single diaper was a lot for me in those early days. And I found throwing a reusable, washable pad down on the couch and having my little diaper caddy with all my supplies there and being able to pick all that up with one arm and take it into any room of the house worked better for me. So
Yeah.
that changing table, the crib, we need to start thinking outside of the box a little bit.
Yeah.
And then quickly on the feeding front, you had brought up some of the feeding things. I think that that's one where I really like to get into the goals of the parents. I have a lot of what I call registry regrets. And I find that when I talk with second time, third time moms, this is common. And that's what I'm trying to eliminate by having a consult to get ahead of it so that you don't have registry regret. I had tons of formula products and dispensers and gadgets for formula feeding on my registry, hundreds of dollars worth. And I had no plans to formula feed. So I think that we get caught up in the top 10 must haves and the Google lists, which are all paid, by the way. They're all sponsored. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Every single blog out there, you got to really question who wrote it. And so I wish that I had had somebody say, what are your feeding goals, Lisa? Why don't we put things on your registry that align with your goals? And again, you're never locked in. If I had chose to formula feed or combo feed, I could have jumped online and ordered something or sent my mother-in-law out who wanted to be helpful to grab something the day of.
Yep. Yep. I think it's so true. We have this ability to order things and ask people to help us, and they want to. So let them, right? Like, I mean, I can't say it enough. People want to help you. When they say, what can I do? They truly mean, what can I do? And by saying nothing, they're going to end up doing something that's not helpful to you. So give them something that's helpful to you and ask them to do something that you would find beneficial. I love that so much. Now, let's get into kind of the travel section of things then, because I think that one can be really, really overwhelming for people because everyone wants the best for their baby. So we don't know what brand is that? What do we really need? What do we want to look for? So like if we're starting with, say, car seats, right? There's so many different types of car seats. I'm not sure how much of this is in your realm versus what's in a car seat safety technician's, gosh, a mouthful, realm. But I mean, we start with the basics. There's that bucket infant seat, and then you've got rear-facing car seats, you've got forward-facing car seats, you've got boosters, you've got backed boosters, right? There's this whole process. And even myself, who doesn't have children but has two car seats in their car, for other
Yep.
kids, it can be overwhelming, right? Because you don't know, okay, should I buy the car seat that is transitional from, 8 pounds through 45? Or should I be buying one for each? Because does that mean it's not as safe? So do you have like a specific car seat or suggestion for people on either brand, specific one they should get, or specific things they should be looking for when they're getting a car seat?
Sure. So, a couple of things on this topic. One thing that I learned in the expert registry course that I thought was just like, I couldn't unhear it was that every single car seat manufactured in the United States follows the exact same safety regulations, meaning it has to pass a test. And as much as that is common sense, I felt like a light bulb went off in my head when I learned this fact because the truth is, car seats range dramatically in price. And so I think that if you are stressed about the financial aspect of this, keep in mind that you literally can't go and buy a car seat that doesn't meet the requirements. And so you do what you can. And again, we have individual babies. So I started off with a bucket car seat, and my child was not a fan of that. As soon as we were able to graduate to more of like a convertible upright situation, he didn't scream his head off in the car as much. And you can keep those grow with baby car seat safe by continuing to keep them rear facing, making sure that you've adjusted all of the different components. There's headrests, there's straps, there's ways to add an infant insert. So I personally like, when it comes to car seats, I like something baby can grow into, so that if they are feeling a little uncomfortable, you can make adjustments and potentially use that as they get older. So I personally like more of like a convertible car seat that can switch rear facing, front facing, has a little more space for baby to grow into it. I also found that leaving it in the car worked for my family, opposed to having to switch it from vehicle to vehicle to vehicle. So those are
Right.
questions that need to be asked, because it does matter. If you share a vehicle, that's a very different situation than if you're bouncing baby from all different cars, and therefore it might be better to have different, bases in cars that are compatible. So these are questions that we go through thoroughly in a registry consult to really narrow it down and get rid of some of that overwhelm. Because once you start asking the right questions, parents can start checking things off that aren't going to work for them. And as you whittle things down, it becomes a lot less scary and overwhelming. So I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, no, it
And
definitely does.
you touched on safety, and this again in that travel category. I love the idea of knowing who the experts are in your community who can check the safety of the car seat, who can explain and teach and help you decide on the proper car seat. And same with baby carriers. I find that baby carriers, for me personally, are a must have. And this one again comes with a little controversy, because I've had a lot of people say, well, carrier overwhelmed me. It didn't work for me. It hurt my back. I don't think that that's a must have for everybody. And what I will say to that is, chances are you may have been able to make that sustainable and work for your family if, again, you had the education to go with it. So there
Right.
are baby wearing educators out there. And baby wearing, like breastfeeding, is a learned skill that takes practice and time and patience, and is a spectrum of learning. And so if you go into it with the expectation it's not going to happen on the first try, and baby's going to have to get used to it, and I'm going to have to get used to it, I need the proper fit and the proper carrier to fit my body and to make things easier, then I find that ends up being a huge help to parents when it comes to travel.
I think that's so huge. If everybody or anybody, I guess I should say, is listening, has tried baby carriers, it hasn't worked, or feels overwhelmed by it, check out episode 32. Lauren and I go over baby marrying. It's going up this Saturday, but we are currently recording weeks in advance. So check that out. She has access to and gives you information on baby marrying. So you can find either a group near you, or you can reach out to her and she's happy to help you find what works for you. Similarly to what Lisa's saying about meeting with you kind of even prenatally to say, what are your goals for making a baby registry? Ren's able to say, what are your goals for baby carrying? And let's find what works best for you. If you know you're going to have a C-section, she might prefer something different. If you are a smaller person versus a bigger person, or short versus tall, there's so many different options. Even if you have multiples too. So I love that. Yes. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about and now I'm blanking. Let's
Wearing,
talk. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. No, I
I
was
was
just
going to
going to
say,
say, some questions that people don't think about is like, who's wearing baby?
right,
And, um, you know, what climate are you in? Like all of
right.
these questions that sound common sense, but unless you really take the time to dive into all of these categories, it will take the overwhelm out of building a registry.
100%. And then the last category that I kind of wanted to touch upon, which again, I think we could do a whole episode on, and I'm debating doing an episode on it myself, but that's that sleep category. So, I mean, we said that you really don't need the crib really to start off, right? We need some sort of bassinet. And most babies are using some type of swaddle or whatnot, which is a whole nother conversation in and of itself, trying to figure out what works best for your baby. But are there other things that you think in the sleep category that people should have prenatally? Or do you think a lot of the sleep stuff is typically, post baby ordering and sending people out for grabbing stuff?
So I guess my non-conventional answer, and again, it's not a one size fits all. And
Right.
I know that you and I even have um, differing opinions on some sleep stuff, and we respect each other's perspectives
Right.
and understand that there is no right or wrong way. So when I was pregnant, if I heard the word bed sharing, first of all, I didn't even know what that meant. And also, my husband and I were like, oh, no way. Like, we're not going to have baby in our bed. So, fast forward, baby is here, and we are not sleeping at all, out of my mind exhaustion, trying all the things, feeling very isolated, lack of support, whole nine. And I come across the Safe Sleep 7. I read and research and dive in to say, is this something we should consider? And we did. And it was a saving grace. And I'll get into that a little bit because now sitting here 19 months later, my baby sleeps in his own room, in his own bed, independently. Every night isn't perfect, but we've made mega strides. And so, to answer your question non conventionally, I think do yourself a service and at least learn about the Safe Sleep 7. If you qualify, meaning if you meet the requirements to keep bed sharing safe, and it's not for everybody. For example, you need to be exclusively breastfeeding in most cases to make it safe. So that eliminates a lot of people right out of the gate. But I urge you to educate yourself on safe sleep on the off chance that baby ends up in your bed, because I cannot unhear all of the people that have told me in postpartum, oh my gosh, like I just, in the middle of the night, I caved, I brought baby into our bed. And then the concern there is that the bed has not been set up properly for bed sharing. And now we have a safety concern.
Right.
And I think there is definitely a little bit of a black cloud that hovers over pediatricians and bed sharing. And I understand that from a liability consideration, and the fact that pediatricians have to appeal to all of their patients. And so how could they really in good conscience talk about bed sharing, because it's not safe for everybody, if that makes sense. So
Right.
again, if we are not being honest about bed sharing, then we're not really learning the way to do it safely. And so I understand the controversy. All I'm saying is do yourself a service and look into the Safe Sleep 7. La Leche League does a really great overview. James McKenna has written books about breast sleeping and safe sleeping. And, that's my recommendation, because the truth is, in reality, there are upwards of 60 to 70% of parents that never ever thought they would bed share and then end up doing it. And all I'm saying is have a plan. You may never need to access it, but have a plan, because that is what's going to keep baby safe.
I love that.
So that's my non-conventional answer.
No, I love that. And it's true because that's like you and I had talked about the other day, right? Like this is a big reason why I'm having different people on the podcast is you're right. You and I may not have the same points of view. And part of that may be because I haven't been a parent yet, right? So I may not have the same. Part of it is that I research different things, right? But that doesn't mean anything, because that reasoning on why you're here is the biggest part of why I have people with different points of view on here, because I know that the listeners are going to be just as diverse in their thinking and their points of view as my guests and I are, right? So by having you on and sharing that information, that might really, really resonate with some people, and it might not. And that's okay either way, right? We are I'd say 95% of the people that come on to the podcast are not medical professionals. We're here sharing our information, our research, what worked for us or what worked for our clients. And we want to share that with people because we want people to not feel like they're alone in their own decision making. So being able to share all the different points of view and all the different information is so huge. So thank you for sharing that and for having all that information out there as well. So yes, if anybody's interested, definitely reach out.
And then the last thing I'll say on the sleep category is I want to talk a little bit about infant baby swings. So again, I'm taking this expert registry course and my mind is like blown when I find out that there are different scientific specifications for baby swings because I think that's a big one. I think that I have yet to come across a baby registry, and because I do some auditing, so I'll have clients bring me their registry to audit, and then I'll also have clients that come to me and say, "Can you help me start this from scratch?"
Right.
And in my audits, I often find almost everybody has an infant swing, and it's a gift that people love to give. Well, I didn't realize that there are certain inclines and certain swaddle type structures on different swings that could actually be very unsafe for sleep. And I don't think, and I could be wrong, but I don't think it's public knowledge for most that having your baby sleeping in an infant swing can be unsafe in almost every instance.
Correct.
And I think you can already see people like furrowing their eyebrows while they're listening to this because, we all have put babies in swings and they've fallen asleep in there, right? And who wants to disturb a sleeping infant? But the truth of the matter is, infants have noodle necks and they have very little neck and head control. And there is such a thing as positional asphyxiation. And you could be sitting right next to your baby swing. You could have your eyes directly on your infant, but it is hard to determine if they have cut off their own airway by the way that their chin is tucked into their chest. And if a swing does not have that 10% or less incline, you could have issues. And I cannot say more about the CPSC and all the recalls that have happened around infant swings. So I caution new parents in the swings that they are looking at and researching. And I usually use the blanket statement that having your infant sleep in a swing is a no-no for me. Correct. There's too much risk there. And I don't think that's public knowledge. And that is something that I learned in the expert course, along with where do I look up recalls, Lisa? What websites and resources can I trust that are going to call out baby products that are unsafe? Because another tidbit, or actually scary fact, I should say, is that there is zero regulation around marketing for baby products.
Right.
Let me say that again, because that needs to sink in. I don't think
so
people
aggravating.
Zero regulation around companies that are advertising their baby products. Disgusting.
It's just insane, right? And you're marketing to a very vulnerable group of people. So it's horrifying. And yes, swings, anything beyond a 10% incline can cause baby to arch their back and want to roll more, and can also cause that asphyxiation, which basically means that their neck is being cut off because their chin is touching their chest, right? And I love that you made the point of, no, you could be literally sitting next to them, staring at them, and you have no idea, right? Until it's either they're hyperventilating, trying to get air, or, their coloring starts to change, and that's scary. So, I mean, that goes for so many things. I see swings, I see even bouncers, like Baby Bjorn bouncers and things like that. They're great to have. I love that they're lightweight. You can move them. They can sit in them when you're showering. You can bring them in the kitchen. That's great. But anytime baby falls asleep in any type of apparatus that's not a safe sleeping space, which according to the CDC is a crib, a bassinet, or a pack and play, but something that is a safe sleep space, if it is anything else, you're right. And so if you know that, you were just going to use that swing for sleeping time and helping your baby fall asleep, maybe just don't get it so you don't have that like urge to want to put them in there, because that sleep deprived self is going to have a really hard time being like, oh, well, if I put the baby in here, they'll be okay for 2 minutes, or they'll be okay for 5 minutes while I go run into the bathroom, or 10 minutes when I go take a shower, or I'm going to go make dinner in the other room. I'll hear them. It's just these little things. The same thing goes for those rock and plays that got recalled a handful of years ago. I still see people selling them on Facebook Marketplace or getting them secondhand, using them from a previous child. And those are so, so, so extremely unsafe. With the way that they are built. So there's plenty of things that definitely be careful when you are purchasing when it comes to baby apparatuses and containers and for a baby like that.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm glad you brought that up.
So if you follow me on any of the socials, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, you know that I'm huge on freedom of movement. And I know you touched on this just a few minutes ago. But the truth is, if you are putting baby in a swing so that you can run to the bathroom or heat up something to eat or whatever it is, infants are not mobile for months. Most infants around 6 months. My little crawler was much earlier, but for months, the best thing you can do is put them on a clean surface on the floor.
Right.
Put them on a blanket or a mat or whatever you're comfortable with, and so that you have them in your line of sight, because this way they are able to explore their environment, use their gross motor skills. It's good for development. It's better for their bodies and their joints. So at the end of the day, again, I understand some people really love their swing. My baby hated his swing like with a passion. And I just assumed every baby loved to swing.
Yeah.
So again, couple $100. And I ended up selling the thing after a month or two because I was like, we never use this. He'd rather be on the floor and it's better for him developmentally. So
Right.
everybody's going to have an opinion, but I do believe when it comes to sleep, we need to also be talking about what is unsafe for sleep.
Right. I think that's great. And I think you're right. You don't know what your baby is going to like. If you really, really want to buy a swing or some sort of apparatus like that, I always suggest talking to your friends that may have already had babies and are getting rid of things. Check out Facebook Marketplace, things like that. You don't want to ever buy like a car seat or anything like that resold. However, a swing or something like that can definitely still be a safe option. And it's a great option to start with. And if your baby doesn't like it, then you don't waste of $100, $200 or more. So I love that. Now, I always like to wrap up. If you had one piece of advice or one product recommendation or service of some type for people that are becoming new parents, what would you suggest and what would you share with them?
Sure. So I think that the work that I'm doing right now is twofold, and I see it as a bigger mission. The first side of things is I want to help the parents. So my biggest recommendation to you is not going to be a single product because I don't know you yet. I don't know your goals. My biggest recommendation is hire an expert and take the time to go through a registry consultation, whether that's with me or someone else who has been through the Be Her Village course, who knows their stuff. I almost swore. I've
That's
done
all
a
right.
really
You
good job
can.
not
We
swearing
can we
that
can
on the
market. I should have
podcast.
started that with you. We can. I just have to market.
Okay. So at the end of the day, do a baby registry consultation. I am working on some really great, exciting new things along with my partner, Be Her Village. We are starting registry rehab, and that is going to be workshops and classes and digital courses to help the parents. And you'll always have access to me for one-on-one. So that's my number one recommendation because that is going to save you the most time, the most money, and the most headaches. And then the other side of what I do is talking with birth workers because I am a birth worker and I really want to help my fellow birth workers as well. And I'll tell you this, that gift registry expert course that Be Her Village gave me the knowledge, the confidence, the framework, the specifics to really help my clients. And I know that there are birth workers out there thinking, I'm not going to talk baby products. And I was there too. Because the truth is, I really don't care about baby products the way that I do about services and support.
Right.
And that's why I love Be Her Village, because Be Her Village allows you to create funds and a registry loaded with services and support. So you can have a child care fund, you can have a pelvic floor therapist on your registry that you've already connected with. You can have a fund for meal prep. You can have a fund for laundry service. I mean, on and on and on. And as birth workers, we know the value of that. And we also know the value of the services that we offer our clients. And so what I am saying is, think for a moment, consider the option of, how do I reach more new parents? How do I reach more pregnant folks? How do I help more of the clients that I already have? And my answer to that is offer registry consultations. Because not only are you meeting those parents and pregnant folks where they're at, and where they're at is building a registry, and where their community at is giving gifts and money and support through a registry. So meet them where they are and help them build a phenomenal registry that maybe has more services and support than it does stuff. And from there, they get to know you and trust you and understand all of your offerings. And that is an open door now to other conversations, because I know that you have a lot of value to add to their lives. And this is a way of doing it. This is a way to take your business to the next level. I can't say enough good things about the course. I very much believe in the mission of Be Her Village. And I'm going to do everything I can to tell both parents the value of doing a consultation, and birth workers the value of knowing your stuff, taking the course, becoming an expert yourself, because it is going to help you double the amount of people that you can reach and make an impact on their lives. It has for me.
I love that. And I love that you kind of touched and talked to, I don't know what word to use. You kind of reached both communities that are listening, which is parents and birth workers in the community. So thank you. I think that that's all really, really important. And it's lots of important information to share. And so I'm glad that you were here to share it. And I'm sure you will be on again. So thank you so much. And I appreciate you joining me.
So much. And, I'm so excited to be here because I really care about this work. And if anybody has any questions, wants to dive deeper, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, Empowered Birth Coaching, on all the socials, and definitely visit the Be Her Village website, check out how to build the registry, become an expert, and see how you can become one of those services that is actually featured on the website. So if you are a birth worker, if you are a doula, go and get on Be Her Village. So these parents that are directed to the registry are able to search for you and put your services on their registry. It's a win-win. It truly is.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Postpartum Plan podcast. I hope that today's episode brought you support, relatability, and valuable insight. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave a review and share with any of your prenatal and postpartum friends and family. Your feedback helps us reach more parents seeking support. And if you're looking for additional resources, please feel free to connect via Instagram at Serene Moments Doula for constant information, tips, and tricks, or check out my website, www.serenemomentsdoula.com. See you next week.